All right, thank y'all for coming. The way it's going to work is each person is going to have 5 minutes to open, and I'm going to be a timer. Now, when it gets to 4 minutes and 30 seconds, I'm going to kind of point at Crystal, and then she'll wave at you in case you can't see me from where you're sitting on the edge. So I'll just kind of point at Crystal, and she'll give you a note that, hey, you have 30 seconds left. We flipped a coin before everybody showed up, and it's going to go in this order. So we're going to start with Mitch at the beginning, and then Gary, and then all the way down to Laurel, who will speak last in his race. In the Q&A, we wanted it to be written Q&A because, well, a lot of times people want to show up and just attack somebody or make a real uncomfortable scene. Hopefully nobody here is here to do that, but I've seen that happen at political events before. So Cullen is going to ask the questions, and we've already got quite a few, but there's other pieces of paper. If something pops up, somebody says something or whatever that, hey, you want to ask a question about that, there's still a chance to ask written questions, but they're all going to be written. So just if you want pieces of paper, let me know or let somebody know, and we'll get those up there. He'll ask those questions, and then during the Q&A, we're just going to kind of go one way than the other. And then after all the Q&A is finished, then we'll have 1 minute to close for each candidate, and then we'll go the opposite direction. So we'll start with Laurel, and we'll work down to Mitch. So we're not going to actually have rebuttal and back and forth on Q&A. We'll just, leave. If somebody really has some rebuttal that they want to say, something really important on their mind, that's what their 1 minute left is for. So I hope everybody understands the format. Any questions about the format? Everybody know what we're doing, kind of? I appreciate the turnout. I was worried that we wouldn't have anybody here because this is usually when we have our members meeting. So if I would have known people were going to show up, I would have probably shaved and put on a tie. But anyway, yeah, Cullen's going to ask the questions, and if you have any, I'll kind of run around and get the papers out to people if you have any. But without any further ado, we're going to start at this end and go this direction with 5-minute speeches. So give everybody your attention. I appreciate them being here, and then we'll have Q&A after that. So let me get my timer out here. Just 1 second. And then, so Mitch, if you see Crystal waving, that means 4:30, or that means you're at the 4:30 mark, and you got 30 seconds left. Okay?
Thank you. Thank you.
So go ahead, Mitch. Start us off.
All right. Thank you all for being here, and I want to thank the Tea Party for having us here. You all held a great debate with all the general election, our primary. So it's good to see you all focus on the city. We appreciate that. And by the crowd being here, I'm excited to see that more folks are paying attention to city government, to local government. In fact, what do they say? That all government really is local government. That's where it starts. So I want to thank you all for being here. I am Mitch Tyra. I was elected to my first term in 2009 in a runoff election. I was the first person to be elected to a council that had sit there for many years with the same folks on the council. And I give thanks to the folks that voted for me, and that's why I'm here. I have 2 awesome children from my 23-year marriage. My son lives in College Station. He's going to school down there. My daughter graduated from UNT this summer, and she got married this fall and had an awesome wedding. So God has blessed me, and I'm very humbled to be your servant on the City Council. I believe, and my heart has always been one to not want the government in my business. I want less regulation, and I was raised by a strong Christian family who believe those values. I have actually voted those values over and over on the council. I am the gentleman who asks the questions and gets the answers. Sometimes they're not always the kind of situation we want to bring forward, but it's my obligations to citizens to ask the questions and get the information to you, the folks in Granbury. I believe that the majority of citizens in Granbury want to see fair and consistent policies and enforcement of those policies and enforcement of regulations in our city. I think the majority of our citizens want to see less regulation. That's why I fought so hard to relax regulation, to allow businessmen and women to come to town and not be, if you'll excuse my expression, beat up or bullied by city government and pay enormous amounts of money and impact fees, and hey, I just want to paint the front of my building. Well, sir, ma'am, to paint the front of your building, you're going to have to brick it, you're going to have to put a new kitchen in, and that sort of thing. This really takes place, and that's something that I've stood against and will continue to stand against. There will be a lot of things said tonight about what people are going to do, and they got all this analysis and these things. I will tell you, this is a tough job. There's nothing easy about it. I think I'll get asked a lot of questions on what I did and why I did it, and I'm here to answer those questions, because that's the difference between me and what I consider politicians. I really don't like politicians. In fact, when people tell me that, I say I'm a statesman. I don't like to be called a politician, but I get labeled that. The fact is that I have done what I said I was going to do when I ran and knocked on doors in 2009, and I will continue to do that. I would like to be your city councilman in place 3 for another term so we continue what we've started. Thank you so much.
All right, he didn't even use up his full 5 minutes, but Gary, go ahead with 5 minutes starting now.
Thank you, Matt. My name's Gary Couch. Good evening. And I'm passionate about Granbury, Texas. And I know you are too, otherwise you wouldn't be here tonight. I've been a resident of Granbury for 20 years. This is where I decided to build my business. I grew up in a small town called Sidney, Nebraska. My parents still live there. I have a twin sister and 2 older brothers. When I left Sidney, Nebraska, I went to college in Rapid City, South Dakota. It was a small business college there, and I received a bachelor's degree. But while I was getting a bachelor's degree, I opened my own business. It was a spa retail store. I cut a deal with my dad that said, "Dad, if you let me do this, I'll graduate." Well, I did. And after I graduated, I moved to California. I stayed in the spa business, but I was in the wholesale end of it now. I was in charge of sales and marketing for a spa manufacturer. After about a year of doing this, I was then hired to go to the East Coast and open a new spa manufacturing facility for the East Coast distribution. After being in the spa business of about 4 to 5 years, I decided I wanted to get into real estate. Now, one night, I'm watching television, and there's this infomercial on TV. It's talking about how to buy real estate with no money. Well, I was totally qualified for this. So I found myself very shortly after that in Kaufman, Texas. This is where I purchased my first property. It was an apartment building. I did that with the assistance of an investor. But while I was in Kaufman, as a citizen, I restructured the water and sewer rates. The city was faced with the same kind of issues with utilities that we're facing. When I analyzed it, their volume rates were too low and their base rates were too high. I went to the city council one evening, I made this proposal, and they soon adopted it. After about 3 years of being in Texas, I discovered Granbury. And like a lot of you here tonight, you came in for a weekend, and then the next thing you know it, you're living here full time. I was lucky enough to find Lakeshore Apartments. I purchased Lakeshore Apartments in 1993. In 2010, I did a major renovation. I would encourage you to drive by because it looks nothing like it used to. In 2005, I purchased the Riley's Landing. It's now called Town Lake Apartments. But most recently, I purchased the Lodge of Granbury. As most of you know, last year, July 4th weekend, we had a major fire there. After that fire, I had to decide how to move forward. I fully jumped in. After the fire inspectors gave me the green light, and the fire marshal gave me the green light, and the insurance company gave me the green light, I went full steam ahead. In November, I started demolition. In December, I started construction. And in May, I had people back in their condominiums and their apartments. And at the same time, I had renovated the entire property. It's these kind of experiences and these kind of choices that I've made that makes me qualified to be your city councilman. With these experiences, I have a deep knowledge in construction, renovation, finance, acquisitions, marketing, and sales. I also have a full understanding of the benefits of long-term planning. That is how I make my living. I thank you for this time tonight. I look forward to questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gary. And then we're going to go continue on down the road and with Keith. Go ahead, Keith.
Thank you, Matt. My name is Keith Tipton. My wife and I are residents of Granbury for 13 years now. And it's like these gentlemen said, and a lot of other people, when we came through Granbury one time and my wife fell in love with this town. So we went back to Albuquerque, New Mexico, where we lived, and we started the process of selling our property and moving here. So we did in 1999. We moved here to Granbury, purchased two large bed and breakfasts, and we operated and ran those for almost 3 years. And then we had the opportunity to sell the business, so we did sell the bed and breakfast business. And at that point, we just semi-retired for a while until my wife decided to open a garden shop and landscaping business. We did that and ran that for about 1.5 years. But some of my main experience I wanted to speak to you about was that I was in the medical field for almost 40 years. I started off working in an office for a small company in Dallas, Texas, and worked my way into sales and was turned into their top salesman for East Texas and Dallas and Fort Worth. But and then we moved to Albuquerque and I started my own business, manufacturers rep, representing some of the largest companies in the medical business. So I had an opportunity to get out and meet a lot of people in the different communities. So I feel like I have a lot of experience business-wise to bring forth to the council. The other thing is that I wanted to speak to a couple of things that I think that we need to address here in Granbury. And one is the tourism business, which everybody pretty much knows that's our main industry here in Granbury. And we need to, continue to make that business grow. And I think there are some ways that we can, beautify the square to make it really attractive for the people that come here and visit and shop, that they'll be so impressed they want to, like we did, want to move here to Granbury. But to increase the tourism business, that will help our tax base, where that the more tax dollars we get, the less chance it is that we have to raise, our property taxes here in town. So we want to try and keep the tourism business strong, and then by that we can continue to make the city grow. There's a couple of things. I know back in 2007, the City Council approved a bond program to redo the Opera House, and that got kind of put on hold. And now this last year we've started that renovation, and hopefully we'll get the Opera House going again at some time, because that's a major draw for Granbury, and we all like to go attend those performances. The other thing I wanted to address, and this has been addressed at several other city council elections, and that's our utility rates here in town. I know that a previous city council administration approved the electric rates on a 10-year contract, and unfortunately we thought that was a good deal at the time, but they turned out being too high, and now we're all paying high electric rates. I live in an old historic house here in town, and boy, my utility rates are crazy. And there's got to be some way that we can help the citizens of Granbury to get those rates down. The other thing we need to do is work, and I know the current folks work with the BRA, but we need to try and keep the water flowing into the lake to keep the lake levels up. We have a lot of beautiful homes here in Granbury, and I don't live on the lake, but I see these houses and their boats are setting up out of the water, and the stumps are out of the water, and there's no water activity. So we need to continue to work with them to see if we can't get our lake levels increased. The other thing was that I'm kind of like a independent.
20 seconds.
Oh.
20 seconds.
Okay. I'm kind
kind of like an independent candidate, and I have no ties to the current administration or to the present administration. And I feel like I can work with the city council to help Granbury move forward. There's a lot of big plans for Granbury, you know, the big subdevelopment west of town. And when the city gets involved with that, they're going to have to put in a new water treatment plant. Thank you very much, and I appreciate you considering voting for me.
Hello, I'd like to thank Matt Mills and the Tea Party for putting this and hosting this event. I thought it was a very great thing, and it's good to see a turnout like this. I don't remember, I was asking Laurel, I've never seen a turnout like this, so I think it's great. My name's Harold Sandell, and I'm a certified public manager with 27.5 years municipal experience. 17 years of it was spent here in Granbury, Texas, and 10 of that as city manager. I'm more familiar with the city department's operations and responsibilities than anyone else running today. Some may ask, do I have an axe to grind? The answer is no. Council made a decision to make a change, and the normal lifespan of a city manager is about 3.5 years is the national average. So, you know, at some point that was going to happen. I accept that. I'm ready to move forward, and that's water under the bridge. But I feel like you know, just like Mr. Couch said, this is my home. I have a vision and passion and love for the city of Granbury. And I think I've tried to show that through every development that was negotiated, every step and walk of the way. There's 3 issues I would like to talk to you about. And the first issue is the Lake Granbury water level. I believe we've not really done enough. I think it's a county-wide issue. I think it's a city and county issue. And my hat's off to the Lake Granbury Waterfront Homeowner Association. I think that's a move in the right direction. It's a move in the right direction for us to hire this attorney and work on some legislation. But I'm going to tell you, it's a huge economic impact to this city, and there's probably not any other single issue more important to Granbury. Now, what I would suggest is this is a full-time issue that we need to put a lobbyist on immediately, and that lobbyist needs to work 24/7 during this legislative session. There is going to be some cost and impact there. But BRA has their lobbyist, and I guarantee you if you turn your back against BRA, they're going to sell every drop of the water that they can get their hands on. So I would suggest that we move forward and try to work in conjunction with the county to hire a lobbyist. So I would do that if I am elected. The other thing I'd like to talk to you about is the second item would be fiscal responsibility. You know, this council had the opportunity to cut ad valorem taxes this year. Councilmember Parsons made a motion to reduce the ad valorem tax and did not receive a second from my opponent or anyone else. I would be that second. I will reduce the ad valorem tax. City of Granbury has plenty of cash unrestricted on hand. So I would vote to reduce your property taxes. You know, these are difficult times and people need some help. And I've always been opposed to property values creeping up on us. With them passing the effective tax rate, your next appraisal, if it goes up in value, you're going to be paying more in taxes. So I would vote to reduce your taxes. The third thing I'd like to talk about is teamwork. You know, I've not seen a lot of teamwork the last 3 years. I had the pleasure of serving for 17 years here, and we were able to accomplish many things with teamwork. I mean, the proof is out there. You see what's been done over the past. What have you seen the last 3 years? I ask for your vote for City Council, Place 5, Harold Sandell. Thank you.
Thank you, Harold. And Laurel.
Okay, my name is Laurel Purple. I was born in Alabama, raised in West Texas, and the reason I bring that up is going to tie in later with one of my main things that we really need to do. But first of all, why am I running? I moved here closer. I moved here in 1979 and became an insurance agent, and have been in business, and it's coming off that. But I've developed a business, and I have very, very good interest in the community. If you'll look, I was on the original charter committee, was elected to that. I've been on several review committees. I've been on planning and zoning. If you name a club or an organization in town, I have been a member of it and have worked for this town. And the reason I work for this town is because I own property and I want to be in this town. I want my grandkids to be raised in this town. Like I said, I have a bachelor's, master's. I taught for 12 years at Weatherford College. In fact, in '79, I actually taught classes over here at the campus. I had a chance to leave the college and come over here and be an insurance agent, and I did it. What's the major thing we need to do? It's two things. One is destination city or a destination business. If we don't have a destination for people to come here, they're not going to come. You say, well, what are you well, first of all, for them to come, they're going to have water. Water is going to be the driving force the next 50 years. You go up to Parker County, their population has grown up roughly between 50 and 60%. We're going to get that growth too. But if we don't have the water, we're not going to have business, we're not going to have industry, we're not going to have anything. And so that is the most important thing we need to do, is try to keep enough water to get our desalination plant, which is presently on board, get that. We could sell, we're paying money every month for water we're not using. Why let it go downstream? Why not produce it and sell it? Again, BRA has us by a shoestring. They've got us tied on stuff. That just needs to be really needs to be worked out. Anybody that raised in West Texas, have you been through the towns? There was an article in Texas, I think it was Texas Monthly last month, about Upton County. Happened to be the county I was raised in. It has two towns in it, McCamey and Rankin. It's the only county in the state that you can dispose of salt water on the top of the ground. The reason? It's all contaminated. Why? Because in 1925, when the stock market fell, oil was selling for 10 cents a barrel and water was selling for $25 a barrel. Now, that's going to happen again, folks. I mean, I hate to be the bearer of bad tidings, but whoever controls the water in the future is going to grow. Go to Colorado, go to New Mexico and try to drill a well. See what happens to you. You get shut down quick. But we can work with water. We need it for recreation. If we don't have the water here, these people aren't going to bring their boats. They're not going to spend their money. It's got to be done. We're working towards that. I think you've seen a difference in the advertising recently, and I will say we're doing a good job with it. Let's see. To sustain our life, our standard of living here, we have to first of all not build a fence at the city limits, which some people in the past have done. We can't make Granbury what it was when I moved here, folks. It's not going to be that way. It's not going to be the quiet little town. Somewhat it will, but it's a situation. We've got growth pains. People are going to come. They're going to want to stay, like I did, like you did. You wouldn't be here if you didn't like Granbury. That's why I'm here. I've invested money. I've invested time. And as I said, you just check around. I've been involved in everything to bring people to this town. And again, my biggest push this next 2 years, 3 years, is we need to get the water supply. And folks, we need another sewer plant. Every bit of the sewer is pumped underneath this lake to the other side. And I hate to be the one on City Council when that line breaks, folks. Thank you.
Okay, the way we're going to do it is written questions, like I said. If there's anybody who needs paper, I mean, we already have several, but if anybody can you just kind of flag me down? I'll get you some paper if somebody has a question they still haven't been able to ask. Is anybody like that? You don't have a piece of paper? Okay, so I get you one. Anybody else? Couple? Okay, I'll be doing the legwork and get the papers to the folks, and Cullen's going to ask all the questions and moderate all the question and answer. And then we're going to go, one way and then back the other on Q&A. So the first question will start with Laurel and end up with Mitch, and I'll try to distribute some papers out and get those to Cullen, and he'll ask those questions. So go ahead, Cullen, and take that away.
All right. With the current city council doing the job they are doing, why at this time are you running for city council?
Changes need to be made. I'm running for changes. I'm running because we have not really been cohesive in getting a water supply. We had several times where individuals tried to say we could produce our water through groundwater, and folks were not going to do it. And we had some discussions in the city council on whether we could do it with groundwater or not. We can't do it. We've got to have surface water also. That, I think, is, in my opinion, was our biggest problem we've had as far as working together.
Harold?
Same question.
Yes, sir.
Well, we spent a lot of money on groundwater. The city has spent over $3 million trying to do wells when we had a plan to do surface water. So, I mean, it was stalled for 3 years. Now, Laurel, I don't know if that was your fault or why that changed, but, there's time to build a plant. And the longer it's stalled, the more the costs go up on you. So I would suggest you need to get after the surface plant. We had a plan in place, and they decided to spend $3.5 million on new wells that are not going to produce here. So you've got to build the plant.
My feeling is that, the current city council has a lot of disagreements, and the previous city council had a lot of disagreements. And I feel like the city council should work a lot closer so that we could promote the good things for Granbury instead of arguing about things and tabling this to next week and tabling something else to the next week. But there's certain projects that need to go forward in the city. And our Granbury Square, the historic square, really needs to be promoted more than it is if we're going to bring in tourism dollars to stay at the hotels and the bed and breakfast, to eat at our restaurants. It brings in a lot of tax dollars. If you look at the amount of sales tax that we get back from the state, it's grown every quarter, whenever we get it. But I feel like the city council that, we get some new members in there, some turnover, some new ideas. We can continue to make Granbury grow and be, a good place that we want to live and raise our families. Thank you.
Colin, would you mind repeating that question?
Yeah, you bet. With the current city council doing the job they are doing, why at this time are you running for city council?
Well, if you notice my signs, it says working together for all of Granbury. I've lived here for 20 years. I've seen Granbury go from a quaint, sleepy little town to one of the most envied cities in the state, if not the region, if not the country. We need to dwell on what is good, and that isn't happening at City Council. I am not a controversial guy. I like to get as much information as I possibly can and then make a decision. I respect everybody on that council, and I believe they respect me. I'm a businessman here. I have experience in construction and renovations. And by the way, we have a renovation project going on. But that's why I'm running for city council. Thank you.
If you know anything about government, you know that when you have a wholesale change in the belief system and the ideology of the way the government should be run, you're going to have struggle, you're going to have pain. And this city has went through this because we have a new vision, a new face on the city council that we haven't had in over 20 years. And it's a struggle, but we're getting there. And that's why this election is so crucial. The things that we've talked about, and you heard water brought up, water is a big issue. And I take full responsibility. In fact, I want to thank Tony Allen and that movement, that new movement that's came into place of approving. The council approved unanimously to drill 10 wells for $3 million because we can produce 1,000 gallons of water for $2 compared to $6 to $8 for what we consider surface water. We need both. I agree, we need a water treatment plant. We, using good analysis through our finance director, were able to dig the wells, slow down the issue of putting your people, the taxpayers in the city, $16 million more in debt. I'm going to talk a lot about debt. We don't need the $16 million in debt right now. We can handle it as we go forward in 2014, and in 2017 we're going to be out of the SWATS plant. We're paying a huge debt payment out there and not getting any benefit because of the prior council. It's easy to say things here, but it's really tough to roll up the sleeves and make it work. I'm running to make sure that we continue this vision of open government, less regulations, and smarter about spending your money and putting your children and your grandchildren in debt. Thank you.
Okay, so we move back to Laurel.
We'll start with Mitch and go the other way now on this one.
All right, Mitch, is it time to sell the Opera House in its present condition?
That is an issue that actually has been brought forward and been talked about. I'm going to be consistent with what I've always said. The Opera House is a jewel. We need the Opera House here. I don't want to point fingers. I want to be positive. We're going through a process right now. The money was put in the bank in 2007 to renovate and do the commercial renovation on the Opera House. It was put off again and again and again and again. And only again when we got the new visionary thinkers in there that are saying, hey, let's get this done, did we move forward. Yes. Has it been slowed down? Yes, absolutely. Let me tell you why it's been slowed down. Because what everybody heard, 1.2, that's how much bond money we had. That wasn't the cost of the renovation. So people were thinking 1.2 was what the cost. We didn't know the cost. There hadn't been any kind of construction paperwork done. There hadn't been any kind of architectural work done. This city council moved forward in good faith to use the taxpayers' money and the money we had to build the Opera House. The slowdown has come from we've had some elected officials who have consistently made it bigger, made it larger, and said we need this, we need that, and I respect that, I appreciate that, but we can only do what we can afford, okay, period. We hired a firm to go forward. There was an issue with bonding. Now we have had to move over to not the second, but the third construction company. That takes time. We're going through the process. As far as selling the Opera House, that'll be an issue for another day that somebody's going to bring to the table, because I'm all about moving forward in a reasonable way to get this Opera House finished. And I believe you've seen my votes in that respect, because I was the one who brought Andrew Barrios here and who continued the vision by them getting over there into the Granbury Live building. So I think that everybody knows where I stand at Opera House, but if you don't, please ask me. I'll be glad to explain the whole detail. By the way, that organization was a private organization for 30 years. And the city bailed out in 2006 because they were in the hole. So I'm telling you all, that was run by a private organization. Y'all had a private, local bailout of funds in 2006 by your city council, just like the federal government. Thank you.
Well, I think that in order to assess this situation, we've got to understand how we got here today. How did the costs skyrocket? Because if we don't understand that, we're going to repeat the same mistake again on another project. On February 7th, the community came together and they filled the chambers at the city council. And they said, we have $700,000 to give to you to acquire the adjacent building and to renovate it. And, oh, by the way, we have another couple $100,000 more when you need it. Now, Mr. Tyra, he led this effort that has put us on this path. That night, there was lots and lots of enthusiasm. When it got to the point where there was a debate among council members, Mr. Tyra called for the question. It's a parliamentary procedure which kills the debate. So if there was any opportunity for another council member to change his mind, it was killed. So that's how we find ourselves on this path. Now, there are two options that we could have used. The one that was decided was to basically go with one person that would design it and build it, okay? What that does is it eliminates all the competition from other contractors, so the price goes up. The other thing that happened in this situation is we demolitioned the Quonset hut, we gutted the Opera House. We did this before we had a price on what the renovations were going to be. We also did this before we had complete drawings that were biddable. The other aspect to this is, excuse me, a couple points here I want to make. Anyway, the point that I want to make as far as this one-man way of going about this is, you know, if you're Jerry Jones and you have all the money in the world, it works really good. But when you are dealing with taxpayers' money, it doesn't. Now, what I would have done, and this is the same process that I used when I rebuilt the lodge after the fire. Number one, I picked a designer, architect, to get me the drawings, and then from those drawings, I made the changes. Once I got those changes made, then I asked him for a full set of drawings that are biddable. And that's the key word here, is they need to be biddable. Once that was complete, then I sent it out to multitudes of contractors. This is what causes competition, and this is how the price comes down. So, you know, there's lots of blame to go around on this, but we need to rethink this entire project. We've got to decide, what are we willing to spend on the project? Right now, just as of late as the last city council, you know, they were presented a price of about $2.4 million. They said, we don't like that price. Go get us a better price. We didn't tell them how much they could spend, but we sent them back to bring the price down. I guarantee you, you're not going to get the price down $700,000. So I believe that we need to step back and reassess, decide what we're willing to spend on the Opera House, and then get the architect to bring back a renovation plan that fits our budget, not the other way around. The reason I know this is because I've done it. And I believe I will be able to assist in this project when I'm elected. Thank you very much.
Me?
Go ahead, Keith.
Okay. Well, as you all know, the Opera House has been, you know, beat to death a number of times, up and down. And when I first moved here, the Opera House was doing a nice business, and the city had already taken it over because we wanted to, you know, preserve the Opera House because it is a fixture in Granbury. And so the city has always lost money, I believe, on the Opera House as long as they've had it. But when the situation came up, I know that they had the bond election, they approved the funds to renovate the Opera House, and then that was put on hold. And then along came this chance to buy the building next door for $700,000 or whatever it was. And I was against that at first, but then since there was private donations to pay for this, I thought it was kind of a good idea. And the city might have missed the boat there. But that got by us, and now then we have the Opera House again to see about renovating. And when I came here, right after I came here, not only the Opera House was on the square, but Granbury Live was operating on the square. And these two venues they were the vitality of the square. They brought a lot of business into the square. And, you know, the Opera House had been shut down for months, and Granbury Live is gone. So we need to, like Gary said, reevaluate this Opera House, look at all the options. We're at a point to where I know that the costs are going up every day because it has been put off. So I'm not in favor of the city, you know, just selling the Opera House right away. I hope that we would get it finished, and it's probably going to lose money for who knows how long, but at some point we would hope that it would break even. But it would bring the folks to town that would spend money other places. And Granbury has always been known for its Opera House, so I think we need to continue that tradition if we can without burdening the taxpayers anymore. Thank you.
Well, I think the council made a mistake by not taking the St. Helens donation. I think that group had plenty of money where you could go and renegotiate with those folks for future additions and payment towards some fix-up. We all knew we were short, you know, in the Opera House fund, but when you have $1.2 million, you design it and build only what you can. That thing could be done in 2 stages, but you don't design past the $1.2 million. So typically, you take a job like that, and if you have an architect, you're going to tell him you want to be in there for about $1 million. So tell me what we can do for the $1 million cost, knowing that you may have some price break there. But that's what you do, and I don't think we have a negotiator anywhere in City Hall today. So I think that's neat. I think I can be of much assistance there, and you know, I would like to help in that regard. I want to see the Opera House stay. I think it's a very important attraction. Any attraction in a tourist town is a must. I mean, if we're going to spend money to bring in tourists, we've got to have a place and venues for them to go. Thank you.
The Opera House was our destination city or business for years. I've gotten off the plane at St. Louis with a Opera House t-shirt on at a Kiwanis International Convention. A guy grabbed me by the shoulder and says, "Hey, I was down at Dallas with my relatives. They took us to the Granbury to see the Opera House." That's a jewel. Yes, it's a jewel. It was a jewel. It needs to be a jewel. But here's the problem. How many people in here have remodeled an old building like that? Anybody? Okay. Did you spend what you thought you were going to spend? No. It can be called a rat hole if you want to look at it. You can just continue to pour water down it because you're never going to find the bottom. That's the mistake that was made on this building. The reason I say this, I have a piece of property down there, and I know exactly what it cost, because I'll guarantee you, every time you turn around, something else shows up. Something else shows up. But we've got to get something on the square. If it's the Opera House, we need to get it. It's the fact that it's going to cost. But anybody in business knows, now this is a hard thing to say, especially when you start talking about city money. You've got to spend money to make money. And you have to be able to see that money coming back. But if you can't see that money coming back, don't spend it. But you've got to. Anybody in business or even at your own finances, you know when you spend the money what it's going to be for and what you're going to expect in return. And that, you know, that's the problem. And we still I don't think have a complete set of plans. I may be wrong there, but you know, it's just we scratch our head every time we go up there and they bring something new. And my question is, I keep asking for an orchestra pit, and they look at me like I'm crazy. But every theater like this needs to have an orchestra pit. And they say it's $85,000. What's $85,000 when you spent $3 or $4 million? You know, I mean, I hate to say that, but it's what it is. But I do not believe that if we sold it to a private, that it would ever be back an opera house. It would go into some kind of commercial venture, which is probably another booth location. So, thank you. I just wish people would realize we've got to get something to get people back to this town. Thank you.
Okay. What is the city doing to help with the lake level? Why weren't we represented in Austin at the hearing?
We'll start down there and go this way this time.
I believe we had some representatives down there, but the thing is, we don't always know when they're going to do anything as far as the water. The major hearing, I don't believe has come up yet. I think it's in November, I believe. I may be wrong there. Somebody probably can be there. But who do we have in town that knows about the lake level? Do we have somebody that has studied it and knows it? You know, the thing is, you can't just send somebody down there that, I'm from Granbury, I want more water. You've got to look and see why we're not getting more water. The reason we're possibly not getting more water is the fact that Possum Kingdom is not collecting the money of the water, but also they can only let water out to a certain level, and unless they get that, and they were working on that to where it could let more water out. It's ironic that we had water in the lake as long as the plant was running. That's what you sort of wonder why, because water constantly, you know, keeps things going. So, but the city has put money ahead for an attorney to represent us, and we will have representation. I'll guarantee you the next time we'll have representation down there. We may be the little town up here in North Texas, but we'll be down there in force. Thank you.
Could you repeat the question, please?
What is the city doing to help with the lake level? Why weren't we represented in Austin at the hearing?
Well, I don't know why we were not represented. I think we should have been represented. And once again, I will say that I think it's probably the economic backbone of this community and county. And city and county should be working together for state and federal laws to help protect our lake. There is no doubt that we need to keep our lake full. And that's what I would work towards.
Well, you know, it's real apparent that the city has to work with BRA and other government agencies to try and keep the level of the lake up for many reasons, for the homeowners, for the water sports, for the tourists, and many reasons why people come here. But I wasn't privy to a whole lot of the information that was going on with the BRA and hiring. I'm glad they hired a lawyer, but we needed some representation in Austin to help the city make these decisions. So I would work with the present city council and the mayor and the staff and everybody to continue to improve that situation with the BR. So hopefully we could get that done. Thank you.
Well, I can't speak to why we weren't represented in Austin, but if I'm elected, it will become a main priority for me. Our lake is the most important thing in Hood County. It is the economic backbone of our community. There's over $1 billion of ad valorem valuations that taxes are paid on. If we have a lower lake, those taxes will drop and other taxes will have to go up. I'm a little perplexed on why there hasn't been more emphasis on making this a priority in the last 3 years. It's about education. You know, once a person understands the situation, and the reason why we have an issue with our lake levels is because they are taking just as much water out of Possum Kingdom as they do Granbury. We are a narrow lake, river. They are a much larger lake. So the impact to us is much greater. Right now, the drawdown is, let me put it in simple terms. For every gallon that they take out of Granbury, they take 1.75 gallons out of Possum Kingdom. Now, once the lake level drops below 7 feet, then it's a 1-to-1 draw. Every gallon that comes out of Granbury, a gallon comes out of Possum Kingdom. This is what we are fighting for. And I'm on the steering committee of Stave Lake Granbury. It's an incredible source for everyone to get familiar with the problem. A week from today, on the 16th, BRA will be presenting in Glenrose. I believe it's 6 o'clock. If you have time, you need to go there and get educated, because what they tell one city isn't always the same as they tell another. We need to commit whatever resources necessary by the city to be represented. Thank you.
What is the city doing about the lake level, and why were we not represented? Let me say we were represented at that Austin hearing. In fact, the bus went down. The county did a great job. Every county official was there, and every city official was there except for one or maybe two of our elected officials. I was there, Mr. Allen was there, Nan Hewlett was there, and I believe Mr. Parsons was there. That's who I can recall. We did have representation there, but let me make sure you all understand, because my opponent talked about understanding the facts. That's very important. My opponent made it clear in his opening statement that he's been owning property on the lake since 1991, 93, but he just recently, a few months before the election, joined the open water group, Save Lake Granbury. It's the same. That's a split organization. My fellow councilman, Mr. Allen, was the first president. We have been involved as a council level from the day I got on. But the fact is, I didn't get anything done in 2009 because I didn't have any assistance. Because, folks, I want to let y'all know the real fact that this whole lawsuit, this whole challenge of the actual more permitted water to leave our lake started in 2004, and there were 13 cities who challenged the BRA. But guess what? The city of Granbury chose not to be involved. All 13 of those cities were able to negotiate with BRA because of the challenge and the lawsuit getting in the early days, and they were able to negotiate things for their city. Granbury was silent. The fact is that because of the Lake Granbury water folks, we, the council, have took strong measures. We have hired attorneys, you all know. We're moving forward. We're getting in late in the game, but we're doing everything legally possible to negotiate a position for us. That may even be a lawsuit. Whatever it is, our goal is to keep that lake level to a place where we don't lose water, because you all haven't seen a negative or a financial impact like you'll see. Do y'all realize that the lake is low right now, and we've gotten a decent amount of rain? One thing that my opponent spoke about that we've learned that works in reverse, do you remember when we got all the rain and our lake was filling up, it looked great? Well, Possum Kingdom was low. That works in reverse. So because their level was low, they released our water downstream to make it to 1 in 175. That's ludicrous. Why didn't our people get involved in 2004? This is part. Those folks, and that's why we need to continue this vision forward with the folks that are on the council, and that's why I need your support to get reelected. Thank you all. And I can answer many more questions privately about this.
Okay, well, we're going to be short on time, so we've got room for a couple more questions. How would you address electrical rates for the city? They are the highest in the entire area. What are your plans for giving the city of Citizens Granbury utility cost break?
I am so glad that someone asked that question. That has been in front of my face for the whole time I've been on the council. The more I learn about it, the more depressed I get. Again, I'm talking about something that prior councils did, that same old vision, that rubber stamp situation that I broke in 2009 that we've been breaking down ever since. They approved a contract for electricity that went into effect January the 1st of 2008. They approved this in 2007 when natural gas was at a really all-time high. That was a 10-year fixed rate contract. I have dove into it, I got a copy of it, have read every detail. This contract is so tight. Our city fathers, the council at that time, approved this contract, and there's absolutely no way we can get out of that contract or even lower the rate. In fact, they allowed language in the contract that will not even allow us to address if our rates go like this. And that's what's happened. Natural gases went down, our rates are up here, everybody else's rates are dropping. I did a study of Chick-fil-A, of all the Chick-fil-A's locally, and I'm talking about Burleson, North Texas, Fort Worth, that area, our Chick-fil-A, same operation. Our Chick-fil-A commercially is paying 12.7 kilowatt. Everybody else is paying 4 or 5. And some of the higher ones in those areas are paying 7 and 8. It's hard to stay in business. So what are we going to do? There's only two options, okay? We do a better job at running the electric department more efficiently, okay? We cut our cost, and we lower the actual rate to our customers. What does that mean? That means we will make less of a profit, but we have to do it to continue to help folks. I can't tell you how many calls I get from people saying, can you help me? I got a $25 late fee, and I live in a trailer house in a or I live in an apartment that's very small. People are struggling. People in business are struggling as well because we have the most outrageous electric bills. Now, somebody said sell it. Yes, I've been working for a year and a half with our current city staff to sell the electric company. We did a detailed analysis through the budget workshop, and we found it's probably worth number $7 or $8 million. Okay, but we have $13 million in debt. And those are called utility fund bonds. They only can be paid out through utility profits, through revenues, and not through ad valorem taxes. This is a very, very, very complex situation. I will vote to lower the tax rate. I'm not going to talk hypocrisy to you like some of my colleagues and probably what my opponent has said earlier already, because I've listened to some of the talk, in that, oh, we'll do analysis, we'll raise the water rates, lower the electric. Let me tell you something, folks, that's very unfair to tell somebody we're going to lower your rate in electric and we're going to raise your water. The fact is, not everybody in Granbury has to pay for electricity. We've got large amounts of our town that are on co-op or TXU. And that's why this ad valorem and utility situation is very serious. And I appreciate you all allowing me to speak on that. I'm glad somebody asked the question. I have a lot more to say about it, but I'll use that time later. Thank you.
Well, I agree with Mitch. It is a very complicated matter. The rates are too high. The city utility rate for electricity is 45% higher than United Co-op. And I pay bills on both sides of that. And the reason is a long-term contract. But, we can spend a lot of time blaming the previous administrations. What is important is what is in front of us today. And I've done a lot of research in this area. I've talked to the chief executive officer of United Co-op. I've had multiple conversations with the chief financial officer of United Co-op. I recently spoke to Gary Miller, who is our representative at Bryant Energy, of where we're buying our electricity from. And there are two options when it comes to the contract that exists. One is, if we want to lower the rate tomorrow, we could choose to go to a blended rate. What that would do, it would average a rate over a very long period of time that would drop rates tomorrow. Now, the downside of that is we're talking about a 15-year, maybe 20-year contract. I would not be in favor of that. Okay? The other option is, we wait till this contract expires. But But the other part of this, and this is what I'm adamant about, is getting all the information necessary to make intelligent decisions. We can't evaluate the return on our investment of our electric company until we know what it's worth. Because we may find out the profit that does exist isn't in relation to the entire value. Now, United Co-op, you know, in a conversation with them, said around $9 million. Okay? I know a study was done. It said 7. But see, I'm in that business. I'm on both sides of that. I buy property and I sell property. And what an appraisal says doesn't mean a whole lot to me. What I'm interested in is what another utility company would pay for it. There's no reason why we can't go out to market and ask these other utility companies to come up with a price. But one part of that agreement, if we were to decide to sell, has to be to protect our employees, that they would inherit the employees. That's very important to me. I'm hoping in the next week to 10 days, I will have a very comprehensive plan so that when you look at it, we can understand what the cash flow difference would be with and without the utility company. That's what I would do. Thank you.
Keith, go ahead and get that microphone too.
Okay. The utility rates are something that I've complained about for years and years to previous councils, this council, and I know that we signed for a 10-year contract at, I guess, about the highest rates available at that time. But myself and other citizens kept asking, well, maybe they could cancel this, renew it, pay a penalty, do something to help lower these high utility rates. Because if our utility company was making enough money, they must be making a profit if they could take $500,000 out of our utility fund and put it towards a parking lot. Well, there's something wrong there because evidently we're making a lot of money on the utility company if we can do that kind of business. What I think, you know, there's certain costs that can't be, they can be lowered a little bit as far as maintenance and repair. You know, the city, I think, does a good job of that, as good as they can do. But as we add new subdevelopments, and there's I know some big ones out there, you know, these folks are going to have to pay this high utility rate. Well, I don't think they're going to like that too much once they see the utility rates. So, and Mitch says we can't do anything to lower it, so I don't know. At least we need to start doing some studying, and when this contract is up, we need to negotiate, you know, the best contract we can get. But in the meantime, I don't know if we have to bite the bullet. I know that's what I'm doing, and I'm paying a lot for my utility. And the water's another whole subject. But, you know, I just think that if there's any way we can lower it, and there may not be until this contract is over, but if we can, and I asked 2 years ago some city council members to investigate this, and I never heard a word about it. You know, once the election was over, everything was back to normal, and we was paying the electric rates. So evidently, we might could just start off by lowering them if we, you know, unless we want to save up another $500,000 to buy something else here in Granbury. Thank you.
Well, let me just say that you know, on the electric rate issue, you know, Granbury was caught in a crunch back at that time, and it was when gases were spiking. We were drilling everywhere, and actually we were very lucky to get the gas price where it is today. And I know you don't think so, but you know, Weatherford's price was like $14. It doubled and tripled over in Weatherford. So it was also the lowest rate in Granbury. You know, United Cooperative puts out that rate, and it was Granbury was the lowest at the time. So that's why we decided to go with a fixed rate. At that time, we had no idea that the gas would bottom out. And I'll tell you, if the gas hadn't bottomed out, we would have had the cheapest rate on a fixed rate term. Now let me tell you something about what's gone on recently at this council. And I believe that it can be blended, and I think you can blend it with cheaper gas. So yes, I think the contract can be broken and relooked at, and I have not seen a contract yet that you couldn't adjust. So I forgot where I was going with that, Laurel.
Yeah.
But
I'll finish it.
let me all right, you finish. This council had the staff do a rate study, and this rate study, by the way, shows everyone that's not on City Electric, and there's a lot of them out there that are on United, they're on Tri-County. So though this rate study, they pushed off the vote till 2013. But you know why? You're going to get a 55% increase on your utilities, your water utilities there. So anybody not on City Electric is going to get a 55% increase on the minimum bill. That's correct.
First of all, that bill hasn't been approved yet because there's a couple of us members that raised Cain on some prices. It was very, very unrealistic for some people. We happen to get caught in a situation that if we'd have hit it right, you'd have thought we walked on water. We batted, 750 or whatever. The decision was made based on, at that time, what the best information could be done. Now, how many people here can say that they haven't made a decision sometimes that they looked at later and says, I was a dummy for doing that, but at the time, it was the thing to do. Otherwise, our electricity rate would have been totally out of sight. We're looking at some situations they looked at, trying to figure out a rate that certain users that use less electricity might get a break. The water's the same way, although water minimums are a situation we're going to have to look at real close. But the thing is, this council made the decision based on information given them. How can how many bad people can use a Ouija board? If you can use a Ouija board to tell what's going to happen, yes, we'll do it that way. But sometimes you just have to make a decision, and you find out later it was a bad decision, but at the time you made it, it was the best decision you could make. And, I'm paying the same high rates you are. Mine are all my properties in the city. And you can determine sometimes, you just sort of wonder, you think the cat's leaving the electricity on or something or other, but they're not. But anyway, I hope we can do something. We're working at it. We're not just letting it go. We are actually looking at what to do to reduce the rates, because we're getting the same rates you are. We don't get a discount because we're on city council. In fact, they look at us a little harder than they do you if anything happens. So anyway, just give us time and work with us. We'll work with you. And don't hesitate to call, because, if you got a question, if we can't find the answer, somebody can. Thank you.
Okay, well, I've been given the signal to wrap this thing up. I have one more question that I'd like to ask, and I want to limit it to 1 minute each. When local governments invest taxpayers' money in real estate ventures, restaurants, parking lots, opera houses, isn't that picking winners and losers, similar to what is currently happening at the federal government level?
We'll start down there at Laurel and come this way.
Sometimes public money has to be spent to advance what the community and what the city needs to help it out at that time. The parking lot was bought because we had no place to park people on the square. It was getting a situation we needed parking. That became available. Again, it was purchased. But when it gets sales, we'll get the money back. Now, Tony Al and I have a little side bet, but I still think we'll get $1 million for it. And he's going to Hofbrau House to eat. He doesn't know it, but when I win, but we've tried. Some decisions are made. We find out later they're bad. The decision that was made to do it was the parking lot, one parking lot. But my question was, the stripe the thing totally wrong. So anyway.
All right, thank you, Laurel.
Yeah.
Harold?
I, for one, was not for the parking lot acquisition. We had issued a bond to build a parking garage to build behind the Opera House location. As some may recall, it was for 300 spaces. I felt like, you needed to get spaces close to help the squared parking closer than that parking lot location. But one thing that I will disagree with is the recent decision to take back the old First Baptist Church parking lot. The city received that lot from the county, or purchased it from the county, and then we flipped it to Jerry Durant for development. He then turned it to Hotelier. Is that it?
Yes, sir. All right, Keith.
Let me have that question one more time.
When local governments invest taxpayers' money in real estate ventures, restaurants, parking lots, opera houses, isn't that picking winners and losers similar to what is currently happening at the federal government level?
Well, to answer your question, yes, it is similar to what the federal government is doing, which I don't think any of us are too happy with. The city has to buy certain properties to improve the quality of life in the city, to make improvements in streets and sewers and things like that. But as far as going out and investing in businesses like restaurants and some other businesses that should be totally funded by private companies, can afford it a lot better than the city can. I think that, and like the Opera House and other historic buildings and historic venues here in town, the city has to keep those kind of things going. If they're not making money, we can buy those. Thank you very much.
It was fast. Go ahead, Gary.
Yes, I have a little different perspective. I believe that real estate's an investment. I disagree with buying restaurants. I'm in favor of the Opera House. What real estate does for cities is it provides amenities for our citizens. Why did you move to Granbury? Was it because we had a great gutter or a great street? No, we had a city beach. We had a conference center. You came down to the square and you had that feel. It was a really good feeling. You sat at some restaurant outside having a cocktail. It made you feel good. That's why people move here. Thank you.
For you, those that don't know me, I definitely don't believe that we should be purchasing property, and we've heard the words flip it. That's private sector business, and we should keep that to the private sector. We own the Babes restaurant. That was a venture the city went into. The city in 2006, I stated earlier, formed a shell corporation called Granbury Historical Properties and purchased the Opera House. That was a local government bailout, folks. We cannot continue to do that. And I believe that if you all will continue the vision with me and with my colleagues that are currently moving in that direction, that we will clean this up, we will lower the tax rate, or excuse me, lower the electorate rate, and we will not be using your money for private ventures. Thank you.
All right, everybody has an opportunity for one last 1 minute wrap up. I will clock it at 1 minute each, and we'll start at the far end with Laurel, and then after that we are done. And I appreciate y'all coming out tonight. So Laurel, 1 minute starts now, and get that microphone down to Laurel, please. Go ahead, Laurel. Thank you.
Well, it was said that on our ad valorem taxes we didn't want it to lower it. If you'll check the minutes, Mickey Parsons made the motion to reduce our ad valorem taxes by some maneuvers. I seconded it, and the other members of the council died for lack of a vote. So, and I did try to get the ad valorem tax lowered.
I see it.
I'm going to finish my part up about the Jerry Durant lots there. Jerry, out of his own money, took down the old dilapidated First Baptist Church building. And so, you know, you've taken and slapped a man that has done a lot of good here for Granbury, has, you know, provided 37 acres and dedicated parkland, a commercial development at $6 million of his own expense. That's, you know, sitting out there. He built it right at the start of the down curve. So I'm not for putting in a parking lot there. It was not for taking it back, and I think it took it out of a taxpayer hands and put it in the city's hands.
Okay, I'd like to thank all you folks for being here tonight, and I just want to mention a couple things real quickly. On the prelude to this thing, I didn't mention my family. My whole family lives here, my 2 daughters, my grandchildren, so we're really involved in Granbury. And I was a former Parks Board member for 2 years and helped develop some of the ballparks that came into town and was involved in the city beach, so I know how to help keep the good things going in the city. So my approach is common sense. I would vote on the same things as I think you folks would, a common sense approach to move Granbury forward. So I think I'm the right choice for the council at this time, and I would appreciate your vote.
Yeah, go ahead, Gary.
When I'm elected, the thing that will change at City Council is the way we treat each other. We have so much to be thankful for. We are the envy of so many other cities, and yet we hear things tonight that, you know, you would think that we have real issues that are threatening our economy. It's not the case. We live in one of the best places there are. I will see that the boat docks are finished. I will see that the Opera House gets finished, and I will restore respect back to the City Council. Thank you very much.
I want to thank all the hardworking retired folks and everyone who lives in the city who supported me on my first run. And together, we have really made a difference, and I appreciate that. And I need you to stand with me again. We will continue to do the right thing even when it's not popular. I really appreciate your support. Thank you.
All right, that's all we have. Thanks for coming, everybody.